An American F-15 has been shot down over hostile territory, and right now 2 countries are racing to find the pilot first. One side wants to bring him home. The other side has put a $66,000 bounty on his head. And the president who said the enemy could never fight back? Well, the enemy just did. Today we have a lot to cover. The hunt for an American pilot behind enemy lines, a helium crisis that could shut down your hospital and your phone factory at the same time, a $100 billion healthcare fraud that nobody noticed for years, a jobs report that somehow beat expectations while the country is at war, and a defense budget so massive it makes everything else in the government look like spare change. Stay with me until the end, because the last story ties everything together in a way you might not expect. Now, if you find this kind of coverage valuable, honest and independent analysis that takes real time and real research, hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and consider supporting the channel through a sponsorship or super thanks. Every single like, every comment, it tells the algorithm to show this to more people, and that is how we grow together. We fact check, we verify, we dig deeper so you do not have to. All right, let us get into it. Here is what we know. An F-15E Strike Eagle was hit by enemy air defenses, 2 crew members ejected. One was recovered, the other is still out there, and a provincial governor has announced a $66,000 reward for anyone who captures the missing aviator alive. A sitting governor publicly offering cash for an American service member, but that is only half the story. 2 Black Hawk helicopters sent in for rescue were fired upon. They made it back, but rescue choppers getting targeted tells you everything about how this has escalated. A second American aircraft, an A-10 Warthog, went down in the Persian Gulf the same day. 2 aircraft lost in a single day. That has not happened in a very long time. Now here is where it gets really important. The administration kept saying the airspace was fully controlled, full control, those were the exact words. Then a surface-to-air missile proved otherwise. The Revolutionary Guard claims their new system also took down 3 drones and 2 cruise missiles. We cannot verify that, but the wreckage of the jet. Tehran already released video. That is not full control. That is a propaganda victory on a silver platter. Analysts outlined 3 scenarios. The pilot did not survive. The pilot is captured and becomes a hostage. Or special forces extract him first. Each scenario leads to a completely different diplomatic outcome. And there are reports that American Special Operations Forces are already on the ground inside enemy territory. The administration says this will not affect negotiations. Really? The war is in its 6th week, public support is low, and an American held captive on camera is 1 unlucky hour away from becoming reality. But wait, that is not all. Let me tell you about a crisis that is happening right now, quietly, and almost nobody is talking about it. 33% of the world's helium supply just disappeared. Gone. The largest helium liquefaction plant in the region shut down because of the conflict, and prices have doubled overnight. You might think helium is for birthday balloons. No. You cannot make semiconductor chips without it. You cannot run an MRI machine without it. You cannot manufacture the guidance systems inside the very fighter jets we are losing right now. There is no substitute. None. Zero. And here is the part that should make you furious. A couple of years ago, the government sold off the entire strategic helium reserve to a foreign company. The industry begged them not to. They were ignored. And now, the only countries with strategic reserves are China and Russia, the country fighting a war that depends on semiconductor-powered weapons, sold off the one resource those weapons cannot be made without. You cannot make this up. All right, let us shift gears. The March jobs report came in, and it actually beat expectations. 178,000 new positions. Unemployment ticked down to 4.3%. On paper, that looks solid. But is it? Economists say the real impact of the conflict will not show up until the next report. Energy prices are climbing, supply chains are under pressure, and the central bank? A former head of a major regional reserve bank says the Fed is, and I quote, sitting on its hands, worried about inflation and growth at the same time, which means basically paralyzed. A senior economic advisor says the economy today is fundamentally different from the energy-dependent 70s. Technically true, but when you are burning through military hardware at this rate and oil markets are tightening, that comparison is not as reassuring as it sounds. And now, Here's the really interesting part. The federal government just launched one of the largest healthcare fraud crackdowns in years. The estimated scale? $100 billion. That is not a typo. $100 billion. The first raids hit the West Coast. 8 arrested, including a doctor and a nurse, a married couple, billing the federal health program for years for services that never happened. Their scheme was almost comically simple. They got a hospice license under their daughter's name because they had prior convictions. Then they recruited healthy people to pretend they were terminally ill. $4 million just from one couple. The licensing system? No background checks, no audits, no oversight. The state governor says nearly 300 fraudulent hospices have been shut down. But here is the question nobody wants to answer. How many thousands are still operating? $100 billion. That is roughly the entire annual budget of the Department of Education, being siphoned off by people pretending to run deathbeds for patients who are perfectly healthy. Now listen, if you are still with me, take a moment to drop a comment below. Tell me which of these stories shocked you the most. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time, because we cover these stories every single day, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Let us talk about what the administration is asking for in its new budget. The number is $1.5 trillion for defense, out of a total discretionary budget of $2.2 trillion. That means nearly 70% of all discretionary spending would go to the military. Everything else, education, infrastructure, research, healthcare programs, gets a 10% cut. Now, context matters here. The current defense budget is roughly $1 trillion, so this is a 50% increase in a single year, during a war that has no declared end date, no exit strategy, and declining public support. And remember the helium story? The strategic reserve that got sold off? That is the kind of decision you make when defense is not a priority, and now defense is suddenly the only priority. The whiplash is staggering. Meanwhile, the head of the alliance is heading to meet the president next week, right on the 77th anniversary of the founding treaty. There have been hints about a possible withdrawal. Analysts expected a harsh public attack in a recent national address. Instead, the speech was, as one diplomat put it, essentially devoid of substance. Some say advisors talked the president down. Others credit a Nordic leader who apparently plays golf with him. The alliance exists because collective defense is cheaper than going it alone. 77 years of evidence supports that. And yet, here we are. And finally, the official casualty report. 13 American service members have lost their lives. 365 wounded. 6 more perished in a tanker crash classified as non-combat. These are not abstractions. These are families. Communities that will never be the same. The cost of a conflict that was never formally declared and that most of the public did not ask for. Every story you just heard, the missing pilot, the helium collapse, the fraud, the budget, the casualties, they are all connected by one thread. Decisions have consequences, and those consequences never land on the people who made the decisions. They land on the pilot behind enemy lines, the patient whose MRI cannot run, and the 13 families who got that knock on the door. Every like, every comment you leave here does something real. It tells the platform to show this video to more people. People who deserve to hear these stories explained clearly, without spin. Producing this kind of independent coverage takes hours of research, verification, and careful fact-checking, because getting it wrong is not an option. If you believe that work matters, consider becoming a channel sponsor or hitting super thanks. Your support is what keeps this channel independent, free from outside pressure, and able to keep doing exactly this. Drop your thoughts in the comments, share what surprised you, push back on something, start a conversation. That is what makes this community worth building. And to every one of you who watches, who shares, who comes back, thank you. Genuinely, you are the reason this exists.